Hey everybody, this is Bill Manning with Studio C41, and I am here with a quick tip video thing. I don't know. Um, I put this out on Instagram stories, and I got a lot of emails or DMs, whatever you call them, and at people saying, "Hey, this is awesome. You should do a YouTube video on it." So thank you for the words of encouragement. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I have my phone here set up. Let me give some quick background on what I'm normally doing with this. So when I go to the photo lab, I'm usually in between lunch. I'm going to work during the day, and I just don't have time to scan my images at work or anything along those lines. So I just go ahead and I just get these, take a quick picture on the light table, and then I head back to work. So I have a way, a process that really a preset now on how I invert these negatives. So let's dive into it here. So on the iPhone, you will need the Lightroom mobile app. So for most photographers, Lightroom is kind of like the choice for photo management and for editing. So I went ahead and took a couple pictures here with my iPhone. You can do it with the raw image on the Lightroom. I didn't do it, but just know that there is a limitation to what I am doing here. So all right, so I have here a collection of color negatives, and we're going to just select an image here from this list. And I already have settings, like I have numbers here on the side and everything. So that way it's just more quick for me to go through this stuff. So one of the problems that we have with this negative is that it's not going to invert correctly. So the first step going into inverting this is your curves chart. And so really the first step in inverting it is invert your shadows to your highlights and your shadows to or your highlights to your shadows. So you're flipping the curve chart. So what you see here is you actually get this really ugly cyan blue cast against everything. And that is the common problem that people here typically deal with. So there are some shortcuts. You can try to white balance this out and stuff like that. I've never really had good chance with this, good luck with this. So I just normally go ahead and I've kind of tweaked it my own way of doing this. So we're going to flip this back, and we're going to go through adjusting the temperature, the tint, the vibrance, saturation, and it's not many steps, but just note that there are some adjustments I'm going to go through here. So the first thing that I typically do is I change the color temperature of this. So we're going to try to get rid of that blue cast. So just remember, when we're inverting this, it's going to be the complete opposite of what we're doing here. So we're going to make this image very cool. So we're going to drop this down to about -80. All right. And next, we're going to go and decrease the tint to the green side. So I have this to like -40. All right. And we're going to adjust the vibrance. We're going to decrease the vibrance to about -50 is what I have here. So let me go ahead and do that. And you see here that the negative's starting to turn gray. And that's what we kind of want, is that we want just this neutral negative that we're dealing with. So now we're going to decrease the saturation. I have it down here to about -15. Oops, went too far. All right. And that's pretty much it as far as color correction I do. And there is a caveat, and I'll cover that here in just a second. So the next step is that we're going to go in and we're going to make adjustments to our exposure. So we go into the light module here, and we're going to increase the exposure. So this is a really thick negative right now. And I do want to preface this. You want to get this as right as you can in the picture that you're taking. So, but again, you're taking your this is a mobile thing. You're not really going to take your time. You could implement these things in a digital SLR if you really wanted to. Matt Day is working on something like that. He's been doing experimenting a lot with that, and more power to him. I expect that you could do this with a digital SLR with a lot of um, adjustments or flexibility actually in with RAW. So we're dealing with a JPEG here. For those that aren't crazy about colors and stuff like that, yes, we are dealing with a JPEG, and we could potentially run into clipping. Again, this is an iPhone. You're not expecting top notch quality out of this. This is something really quick. All right. So I'm going to increase the exposure here. Just remember, we're inverting backwards. So we're going to be making this a thicker negative. We're going to be making this darker once we flip it around. So let's see what we're at right now without any adjustments. So let's go back to our curve here and let's see what we got. Yeah, I would say that's pretty darn close. You see, it's really washed out. There's a lot of contrast that's missing out of this. So, but we're heading in the right direction. So let's go ahead and we're going to invert this back. All right, and now we're going to increase our exposure, which we're making it darker on the positive. So we're going to increase this about a stop and a half. Yeah, that's close enough. All right. And we're going to increase our contrast by about 10 is what I had on here. So, all right. And we're going to decrease our blacks to about negative 69. All right, negative 70. That's close enough. All right. So now we see here we got a pretty neutral looking negative here. The black areas, I really am not seeing any colors here. So this is a good thing. This we're pretty much there. So let me go ahead. Let's invert that curve here, and boom, there you go. I'd say that is pretty darn close. Now you can see here, there is no detail on this. I mean, just don't expect detail. This is from an iPhone. This was a 6x6 negative. So there's a lot of detail in this image. It's just that this particular image was shot on the iPhone. So what do we do from this point on? We can actually create a preset to make this process a little bit faster and get you there a little bit more quickly. So over in the preset section here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a preset here. So for this particular case, this was shot on Ektar. So I'm just going to go ahead and call this Ektar 100 conversion. All right. And you see here, we have detail. I didn't make any changes to the detail. Effects, I didn't make any changes there as well, but I just leave them check off anyway, but that's totally up to you. Color, we made changes to the colors. We made changes to the light. So we want to keep those in there. And then we're just going to go ahead and save this. And there you go. You have an Ektar 100 conversion. So let's back out of here and let's select another image that we converted. So I am going to select, let's go with, I'm going to go back to that one in a minute. All right, let's go to this one. All right, so, and I'll give you, this is with the caveat that we're talking about with the colors. So let's go ahead and implement that preset that we had earlier. So there's the Ektar 100 conversion, and boom, there you go. All right, so this weird coloring that you're seeing on there, a lot has to do with the protective sleeving that I have on the negative. So just note that that's, you know, that's not part of the negative or anything along those lines. But what you are seeing is that there's this weird teal color to it. The problem with this particular image is that the image was on an overcast day. It was generally already really cool outside. So you're going to run into like a wall as far as how far you can actually convert this negative as far as warmth and stuff like that. So let's go back over here. Didn't apply it. So let me go back. Presets. All right, boom, accept it. All right, so let's go over to light. Over to the color. And remember, we're inverting, so we want to go cooler to make this picture more warm. So let's go ahead, bring it over. You can see that we are starting to make some adjustments to this image. Again, this is an overcast day against some buildings, so there really isn't any color in this image. I don't know why I took this, but whatever. Anyway, so and then we can kind of make some more slight adjustments where we're going more towards the green and we're going to make this a little bit more magenta. And you can see again, details horrible, but you can see this is pretty much a good starting point as far as what you expect this picture to look like. So let's go ahead and say that's good enough. And for those that are wondering, can you do this with black and white? Yes, you can. So let's take this image. Okay, I know we're dealing with color, but there's only really you remove all the color conversions that you need to make. So when you take the image here, yes, it's not going to have that orange cast to it or anything along those lines. But what you can do is you can go into your color here and just say that the image that you took is a black and white, and then just flip the black and white over the white balance feature, and you are already in a black and white image. So let's go back. We're now going to only work with the light portion here. So right now you see there's a lot of gray in the areas that are supposed to be black. So you know what? Let's just go ahead and invert this image now. So we'll do the same thing. We're going to go into our curves, and we're going to invert the curves chart. And you can see we got a really washed out image. So let's go ahead and make the adjustments. We are going to increase exposure to make the image darker because we're now dealing with the opposite. So we're now going to bring this back, and you see here that those frames are now getting darker. So I would say that's probably a good spot right there. And then we want to increase our contrast here. And I'm kind of all eyeballing this now. And then let's go down to our blacks, and then let's kind of make our blacks a little darker. And I would say that is a good point here. So that is pretty much a good stopping point for this. I think this is just a great tool for just doing a quick scan. And this is really something that's helped me out quite a bit. So I don't normally do this, so I'm sorry if this was confusing or if I've rambled too much. But anyway, follow us here on Studio C41 and listen to our podcasts. We talk about the latest in the film news industry. So follow us there and shoot some film, dang it.